Hey everybody, welcome into the Pug and Beans podcast. I'm your host, of course, PuggoReborn, and I'm here with Sir Jellybean. How you doing, man?
I'm good, thank you, sir. How are you?
Oh, I am, man, I feel like I'm in World War II.
You're a man? Well,
I'm a
that's
man.
good to know.
I may or may not be, towing some good... Okay, anyways, listen. You want to know something crazy?
Yeah.
You listening?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're listening?
I'm listening, damn it.
Okay. Here's the thing, you jelly turd. Liberation DLC dropped. Were you around for that?
I played the day after, actually, because I was not feeling too good, but I have been around for it. I've been enjoying it. It's nice to see that the cheeseburger welding warriors have finally arrived.
No, absolutely. Throw some more brats on that grill there. I tell you what, we're going straight over. We're gonna go straight over them seas over there. We're gonna landfall. We're gonna climb some hills. We're gonna chuck some grenades.
Is that Minnesota accent? Like the most,
listen here, buddy. Listen here, Buckaroo.
Newsflash, buddy. If you don't stab that tiger.
Listen, guy, I'm gonna need you to calm down. You know, I'm starting to sound like DeSantis all of a sudden.
Oh man.
I won't go too far down that rabbit hole, but
let's hope you can eat food on camera at least.
Well, here in Florida, we don't know exactly what it's like in Germania over there, okay? So...
I apologize to our regular viewers of two to Puggo's random antics.
Listen here, that gained at least one person, guaranteed. But
nice.
But just in case it didn't, well, here we are. So, for what it's worth, guys, today on this podcast, we're going to be talking about Liberation, how it was received, the U.S. comparison in terms of how it stands against the Germans, the Soviets, and, of course, Finland. We have some balancing things that came up, and, of course, the maps, because I feel like the maps are so damn unique compared to what they used to be. It's a huge difference. And then
the maps make the other maps look like crap, to be honest.
And we have some little things at the end that we're going to go over, like, the rise in the player base, the update, and some other little nuggets there. So with that, guys, I do have timestamps this time around, so if you do want to skip ahead and get into different conversations, you guys can check that out. But for now,
if you skip ahead, I'll kill you.
For now, you're gonna get a stake to the heart, you vampire. So let's do this then. Liberation DLC drops here this past week. We've had about a week and a half now, or about getting close to that. And of course, the player base has jumped over this whole thing. How did you feel, Sir Jellybean? How was it received? Wow, what was the notion? Because for YouTubers, we're all kind of looking. We're talking. We have our own little groups and stuff that we're talking, and we also are seeing it from. What Barbware Studios is saying, as well as you can see the player base jump. So how do you think it was received here?
By far the best DLC. I'm kind of glad that it got delayed as much as it did, because everyone was prepped for it. Everyone was on it pretty quickly. It came out, like, I know people say there's a few bugs. I think it runs pretty well. Like, it was a lot better than the finished DLC, and also for the size of the DLC. It's not a small DLC, is it? It really does add a hell of a lot for what, 20 quid? It cost me £20. Because I was thinking, what we get a lot of maps, new faction, a proper faction as well. No offense, Finland, but an actual faction added that isn't just German copied stuff with Russian stuff stapled to it. So I don't know. I think it was a really good DLC. I'm really enjoying it. There's not too much I've had any issues with. Maybe the odd thing here and there, but on the whole, a pleasure to play, which I wasn't really expecting, because after playing Mace, I was like, how will Barbwire Studios top it? And they have kind of knocked it out of the park a little bit with it.
Yeah, I would actually say for the US here, it ended up being $24.99.
That's good.
So yeah, it was very good. It's less than the actual cost of the game. I will say I seen some people, I think it was in the Middle East, where it cost more than the actual game itself, which I thought was kind of
I think that was due to Steam changing its currency things. That was a bit of I remember that coming up a couple of weeks back on the forum, but that's not really Barbwire Studios' fault, because I know certain currencies are basically bottomed out. So all of a sudden your currency is worth nothing and Steam still has to get paid. So
Right.
yeah.
So yeah, so there's that. I did end up seeing that. I know people were complaining about it for a moment there, but that's just what it is there, guy.
Yeah.
So there's that. I will say, in terms of how it was received, and I completely agree. From my standpoint, how I kind of viewed it, as I kept saying this in my conquest, like it's different for me because it's my faction. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm sure the
Yeah.
Germans, playing as the Germans, we won't say what they were, but the fact is like that had to have meant something to both factions between the Soviets and them, and even Finland. Like imagine being someone from Finland and that dropping. How many games actually have Finland in it?
Apart from games where you steal lots of enemy equipment, not many.
Not, yeah. I mean, it's
Because the
fair.
Finns are thieves, everyone.
Absolute.
They're thieves.
They're
This
thieves.
game has proven it.
They're thieves with incredible marksmen. Okay, but
Yes, yes.
let's be honest here. Okay, they were pretty good. But the reality of it is, when
Right.
you come into the faction, it adds. Now, I was telling people, I had conversations, especially in the general chat of the Gates of Hell Discord, which, by the way, is in the description below if you guys want to head over there and check that out. But when I was in there, a lot of people, like I kept telling people, I'm like, I can see it based on the numbers. As a YouTuber, we can see where people are actually watching us from around the world, like our general base, where they're coming from, especially with certain videos. And I found that a lot of people that were watching my channel, it was like 50-50 between the US and German. And then after that, it'd be like the UK and all that. So like, my point with this is to actually have the US now adds a whole nother player base. They did this, and I talked about this in the last podcast. They did this to bring in a bigger market, and the US has a massive market, and it shows. It's showing.
Not just that, though, it opened up. I don't know, Eastern Front. I like history. I like World War II, but look, when you think World War II, you think French towns with Shermans next to it getting shot at by a tiger.
Right.
Like the Eastern Front is fun and interesting, but it's also bleak and depressing. Like let's be honest, look at the when you're playing the Eastern Front maps, most of the things are grey or white and depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what you're playing now with the architecture and stuff. It just feels a lot. It feels alive, and the US as well. It sounds stupid. Even their paint scheme, like that kind of green, it brings it out. Like they're more of a. Everything just feels more alive, and it like what do you think about when you think World War II? Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, it's Western Front.
Right.
Like to be fair, I can understand why they went Austria in the first place, but the Western Front was always going to be the biggest thing.
Right.
And like you say, it's not just the player base as well. Now, marketing wise, more people will stream in because they'll see things like a Sherman fighting a tiger, and it puts that kind of a memory in them, and they'll be wanting to play it. I think.
Oh, absolutely, and that's one of the things too. Is like let's be honest about the history. How many people are like looking back at history and saying, "I want to play as the." I mean, okay, a lot of people would because the technology was really farther ahead with the Germans, of course. But
no one really wants to be. The Eastern Front was horrible as well.
Right,
like, the Western Front had a lot more like Geneva Convention, prisoners of war. Like it was more of an honourable fight, but still some bad stuff. But in the Eastern Front, it was literally like fight to the death barbarity. It's never
right.
It's always been the more bleak bit. So like also you get, I'd say, in a romantic way, the Western Front is World War II. Like it's the more,
Well, it was a mid-war. Yeah. It was after it was more getting towards the aftermath of all the.
But it's romance in the sense of there was it kind of, I don't know, like when you think about rules of fair play and stuff, it was more followed. Whereas in the Eastern Front, it was literally like to the death. There is no rule. There is no quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a lot more bleak, and also, like I said, environment-wise, the Western Front just looks prettier because of France.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, pretty much, with all that to be said, it was received very well. I think that seeing the player base go up, I almost feel like we should just talk about the rise in player base because it has so much to do with this.
So let's they say,
let's throw it to the front. Yeah.
Doubled.
Yeah. I believe there was 3,000 new players that had jumped day one, I think it was. Maybe it was farther than that, but...
They broke 4K at Content Update 5. first time they'd gone above 4K consecutive players.
Okay. Was
And
that
then
re-exist or like players that came back, or was it
that's
actually...
players playing at a single time consecutive.
Okay, okay.
So like on
So
the
that
Steam
could be,
shot, and
yeah. Okay,
but then they doubled to 8,000 on the day of Liberation, I believe.
okay. So it
So I
was,
think
maybe it
they
was
broke
4.
the record for Content Update 5, and then they doubled it for Liberation. But that's just consecutive players as well. Like, actually, I can probably check on Steam right now.
Yeah.
Give me un memento.
It's a incredible deal for this game. It's so good. I mean, if for those who are listening to this rather, you know what this game possesses. You know the depth. You understand a lot of that. That's why we're
Can
here,
I
right?
give you the stats just
Yeah,
here?
go for it. Go for it.
So, playing in the last 36 minutes, 5,983. The 24-hour peak recently is 6,200, and the all-time peak is 8,751. So that's obviously playing it all at the same time. But to put that into perspective, if you look over the last year, the average was like 3,000. Then you get to November 27th, their release, 8,700. The spike from like the start of November to the end is literally from like 2,000 up to, and now we're kind of a standard 5,000 or 6,000. So you're talking an average of like 3 times as many people on at any time.
Yeah.
And I think not everyone's on at all time. Even me and Puggo, we have time where we go into the real world and breathe oxygen and stuff. Like, so that means like if there's a like average of like 5,000 or 6,000 people playing, there's probably been like another 20, 30, 40,000 people bought the DLC easy.
Right.
So it's probably done. I don't know the exact numbers for that, but I'm sure Barbire Studios will release once they want to, because it looks good for them as well.
Right. Well, and on top of that, with the sales going on and stuff, I have had people come to the channel and say, "Hey, I'm just waiting for the next sale because I missed out." And it's really unfortunate because if you did miss that last sale, holy crap, you could buy all the DLCs and the main game for like, I think it was like $18, $19.
If you miss that sale,
like, holy freaking,
there's just no reason to go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry,
but here's the thing: if you guys are worried or you do want to get back on that sale, it sounds like the winter sale is coming soon. So stay tuned for that. And
but not for you. Not for you. Unfortunately.
Well, they did announce that. Well, I don't need it. I don't need it, brah. Well, actually, you know what? I will need it because I am planning on doing, and I'll just announce this right now. Why not? Because I'm gonna throw a curveball. Let's see if you can match my energy, bro. Okay. So yeah, here I'm gonna be at 4,000 subscribers soon, and I'm gonna be giving away. Yeah. I'm gonna give away 3. No, actually, let's do 4. I was gonna say 3, but let's do 4 Liberation DLCs.
Is this this actually came from when I says, "Oh, Puggo was going to donate 1,000 of them," and you said you'd do 5. So this is actually, do you remember when I hamstringed you into this by basically?
Yeah.
Yes,
but I'm doing it. Like, I'm doing it. I feel obligated.
Puggo is a multi-billionaire, so if he doesn't donate at least 50,000 full copies of the game, he's selfish. I'm joking.
Well, it's the truth. But anyway, so if you guys are interested, if you're not able to afford it, or whatever the case, shut the hell up. Because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna give him the DLC, and he's gonna be like, "I'm doing a giveaway." I'll be like, "You shit!"
I'm gonna make 4 fake profiles, win them all, and then give them away.
Dude, that's such bullshit. So no, you will not get it. But however, if you do know somebody like a buddy who's getting the game, or is this holiday season here is needing a little bit of help here, let me know in the comment section below, or you can reach out to me again through Discord. I've had a few people just reach out. I do appreciate for those who have reached out just to say, hey, I really appreciate it, guys. I think as YouTubers we love, I'll speak for myself because this guy's an asshole. I absolutely love when I get to talk to the community, and
yeah, I love I was a bit down in the dumps last week, and some of the comments when you get people saying cheer up and I'm missing your videos, it does actually pulls you out of the shit, like absolutely. Well, probably French, but it does. It's like I've had some nice emails I've done YouTube over about a year now, and I've met friends, and I've had some emails and stuff from people saying like really nice things, and it does it lifts you on that kind of dark day when you go, oh, that's nice.
You know what?
So, yeah, it does matter.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So to the community, before we roll on to the next subject here, we want to say thank you guys, of course, for the support you've given us over this past year. And
you're welcome, Puggo.
Gosh damn it, you tailcoat router. Yeah, we. By the way, that may have sounded actually when I said it, I realized it sounds worse when we talk like this. We
He's just jealous because he knows I will one day take over. And
he
will be
will. He
slain.
will. He's climbing up the back of he's climbing up my back right now, and it's slightly uncomfortable. To be fair, guys, we are friends. We joke around like this, okay? Trust me, it gets way worse than this.
Whoa. Since when?
I don't know. You tell
We're
me.
work colleagues.
You were
We're
the
work
one.
colleagues.
You were the one. Well, never mind. Okay, we're gonna. All right. I don't want everybody to know all the inside jokes. All right. So we're gonna go on to the next topic here. It's going to be the U.S. of A comparison.
The big one.
Yes. We're gonna talk about how they stand up against each one of the other factions here. Again, it's going to be Finland, Soviets, and finally the Germans. So, I'm gonna let you take the floor with this to start.
Well, first,
let's
I'd
go.
say,
Let's do this. Let's do this. Actually, let's do one faction at a time. Well,
okay.
we both agree. Let's do this. We would both agree that Germans have been the top dog. Could still be, but I'm just saying Germans.
Yeah, Germany has
Yeah.
more tools than anyone. Like, and before people say, oh, historically, look, we're just doing the combat in the game. Germany has a tool for every single job. They're the only faction to literally have like things like the Jagdtiger, where it's literally pretty much a battleship cannon or a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's exactly it. So let's start with, where do you put? Because I just want to make that as like the starting point, because
the ranking
it has
top to
be
bottom.
said. Yes, give me your ranking top to bottom now.
So
with the US
this is based off, and also I played the US against Germany, Russia, and Finland. It's a personal thing. Germany's still top, I think, simply because they do have things like the Panther, which has better pen than even the Pershing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They have such. So Germany's at the top. Russia kind of ekes out America on tanks. Like, there's nothing really comparable. The US has something like the IS-2. Even things like Russia still has a lot of very specialist units, but then America smashes Germany and Russia when it comes to infantry because of M1 Garand.
Oh my god!
But the M1 Garand's filthy. Like there is obviously there's certain things in the US infantry that isn't as good, but I'd still say Germany's top. It's hard to say if America or Russia's thing at the moment. I'd probably say America ekes out Russia a little bit, but Russia still has a lot of really good stuff against the US as well. And Finland's at the bottom, but let's be honest, that's not a hard choice.
Yeah, but let me throw this at. So you're saying that you
Germany
would
top.
German top. I mean, there's
US,
US, and
then Russia, then
yes.
Finland.
Because even so, okay, this is gonna get interesting at least, I think.
Okay.
So how do I want to word this exactly? Here's my take on it. Obviously, I would put everything in the same order, though I know that the Soviets had better tanks at least. Because of their heavier tanks and stuff.
Better specialist tanks like the IS-2, but the US, I'd say the Sherman actually is better than T-34 to me. And some people are going to cry about that.
Yeah.
But the Sherman there are better Shermans than there are T-34s. That's fact.
Yeah, and that's kind of this is one of those things too. Like, you got to understand that there was, between the British and the US, they over mass produced tanks. That was the plan. That was the plan. They literally just suffocated Germany. And so, I think there was a statistic I saw. It was something like, for every one German tank, they had, like, was it 16 or 18?
Probably, yeah.
18 more Shermans.
Basically the same as the Russians. They pumped out 85,000 T-34s.
Yeah.
I think Shermans were about 55 to 60,000. Basically, just keep pumping them until the enemy gets ground down.
Yep. And so that's why the comparison is a little bit different when we're talking about this game. It's hard
because
you
can't deploy 50 Shermans on the battlefield,
right?
Unfortunately, well, I'm sure you could.
Could. I'm sure there's going to be a mod for that, but that's just how it is. So you gotta, if you're one of those people who are just like USA, I get it, but just understand that there is a reality to what the war was and how it happened to end.
And the US, even though they were historically, the US was very good in the war. Their tank crews did have quite a high casualty rate, so they were the kind of winning faction. Like US Sherman tank crews had a really bad casualty rate because obviously in certain cases, when they come up against things like your Panthers, your King Tigers, they were pretty heavily outgunned. Not their fault, just the better quality variants of the Shermans were in short supply or just didn't get there in time. The Persian didn't even get there until the last 2 months of the war.
Yeah.
Last month, yeah. Even when the US had the right vehicles, by then it was if anything, the US won too quick.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing too with like the Shermans. The Sherman was so well designed in terms of what you could alter on the vehicle. Like if an engine broke, there was an easy hoist to get it out. They could refurbish these tanks really fast.
Even with
it was crazy.
Even with the new vehicle kits, though, sometimes the kits were delivered and the guys in charge simply would not send out the newer stuff as well. That was another issue. So the US had some of these really cool Shermans come in, like the Zippo with the Flamer one, but the higher ups kind of held them back,
right?
Because they just stuck with what they knew. Yeah, the Sherman standard works. We'll send it in. So even when they got the right tools, sometimes they're just like, we're not using that. That looks dangerous.
Yeah. So I always take that as kind of a grain of salt, because obviously I would love to say there are features that the US has that just absolutely I love. Like for instance, the 50 cal. The 50 cal is literally on everything. If that's like saying, granted, so like the MG42, I don't want to go too in depth on these things, but what I will say is that like the MG42 versus the 50 cal, the difference that is the sheer amount of power that's coming out of the 50 cal compared to the rapid precision of the MG42.
The MG42 is better at cutting down infantry, but the 50 is more versatile.
Exactly.
And also the 50 is just more in generally feared anyway, because like you say, it can take on armored personnel carriers.
Yeah.
It can rip through walls. So like the 50 is just filthy.
Well, and the idea too is like, you have aircraft flying up, you can aim that thing up there, and you know what I'm saying? Like anything coming in is sweet.
I've just been enjoying having 50 calibers and 30 calibers on all the tanks behind the infantry.
Absolutely, it's great. Yeah,
I think the Americans' tanks are the only ones you can send in without infantry, without worrying too much, because the 50 caliber is so lethal. Panzerfaust troops can't really get that close.
Well, yeah, and honestly, mostly the armor that you're facing too, especially early on, you get a 50 cal. I thought it was interesting. I do want to bring this up, and I know we're not going. I don't want to go. Like we can talk about the depth thing. Well, so let me just get this out of the way, guys, so that you can understand why I'm tiptoeing a little bit. So when it comes to the in-depth of the vehicles, artillery, and all that stuff, we're gonna have a separate podcast for that kind of stuff. Things can change from now until then, where we're actually using the unit more, because when you have the US faction with so many different Shermans, to actually understand or to feel the difference between them takes time to actually play as them, because there are various differences that I've noticed since playing the DLC, but I digress on that point. But like you can get for instance, you can get one of those little trucks like the William B and the William B HMG, which is the 50 cal on top, and it only costs 110 currency. Like,
it's cheap.
Resources. It's insane. Like, that's insane for a 50 cal on top of a freaking Jeep. And I think
the balance is the Jeep is so easy to kill as well, so it's not overpowered as well. If you use it right, it's deadly, but it's also not. It is a glass hammer.
Oh yeah, but that's the whole thing. Good. You put it behind a high barricade. You put it in a. You take advantage of the positions. The thing is very fast. You can fly up on someone. I think it's I have to pull it up here, but they're really fast. So it's 96 kilometers for speed. Like,
that's very fast. That's like ridiculous.
Yeah, with a freaking 50 cal. Come on. If there's artillery shooting at you, you take one of these, you blast out and blaze a trail, and then just shred. So that's what I'm saying. Like the U.S., the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the U.S. has this versatility that is, in my opinion, hard matched. I understand that.
Oh yeah, I don't know if anyone's noticed for instance, you have what they call the M7 light anti-tank mines, which are mines but also anti-tank grenades that you can throw.
Yep, you can chuck them and you can lay them. Yep.
So your squads basically all have mines, all have light AT grenades. Now they're not the best anti-tank grenades themselves, but the fact that standard US troops basically have mines on them is pretty powerful because I've like all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, my rifle squads are also mine layers.
Yeah.
So you can get up there. It is actually very strong, especially if you play in the urban maps. You can just lay the crossroads of mines.
Yeah.
And then when the AI tries to counterattack, something like a Jagdpanzer comes in, blows off the track, and it's done.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's what I'm saying. Like in terms of the comparison, like the U.S. is just, you got to understand too for playing this. Like we were talking about why it was an ugly war early on, and then when the U.S. came in, they hit the ground running type of thing. Granted, you got to understand the equipment that they started out with was not the same equipment that the Soviets and the Germans initially started out, even though the Germans were way ahead. So like we're walking in with way better equipment. When you start this game, like if I'm a new player, I would tell somebody that this is arguably the best start to a campaign.
Oh yeah.
Like the US because of what
the US
you're
is
getting.
the easiest. It's the easiest as well, probably for. It is a very combined arms faction. Like you have to like you can play as the Germans and Russians and bring out the big tanks eventually. As you know, everyone starts spamming Tigers or IS-2s, but with the Americans, you kind of do have to learn combined arms, which people might say, "Oh, that means it's not easy." It's actually better for you.
Oh, it's way better.
You don't you're never relying on a single Sherman. You bring 2 or 3, and then you have 3 or 4 squads of infantry and some artillery. Yep. So it also means if you lose one tank, you're not panicking.
Well, yeah, and if you've played, and this is where I'm saying, like in comparison to the Germans, I've already noticed this. So I haven't done a full on German campaign. I have a test campaign that I'm at 12 days. And what I've learned by facing the U.S. is they feel more dangerous. The soldiers all have some equipment to take you out. It feels like every squad is like a pioneer squad. Everybody talks about when you start the German campaign and you're grabbing your first squad, the reason you pick the pioneers, not because they're exceptional soldiers, but because of the equipment that they take with. Yeah, you get the AT rifle, you get a flamethrower, you get you end up with the MG34. There's so many like logistical things that make you more effective. And just the rifle squad. The rifle squad is better than the pioneer squad.
I will counter you though. For instance, the US does have a few things. So for instance, there's no AT rifle on the US side, which means you do lack ranged AT in the infantry squads until you get to the bazooka.
I disagree. I disagree.
Well, where's your ranged AT in your infantry squad then?
Well, here's the thing. You may have the ranged AT, but the thing
no. Let's pass over the cheeseburger, sir.
No. I'm gonna open up the burger and show you the cheese, man. What really matters on this big old succulent burger is gonna give me a heart attack.
Where's the ranged AT in the squad?
Grenadier.
Right, grenade rifle, which they all have, but
yes,
it is quite close range.
I have videos where I hit them over
60-meter range.
Yes, but the thing is, your drop off and damage on your AT rifle, especially that first,
is not good. AT rifle is still useful against those very light vehicles because sometimes things like an armored.
Absolutely, but the thing
I'm not saying the US factions. I agree. The US.
Well, you listen here, Buckaroo. Listen here,
Buckaroo.
I tell you what, now you better sit down in that chair and you just relax for a second. I'm gonna tell you my point. You listen here, okay? First off,
Sonny.
All right. So here's the thing. So with what he just said, my counter to that is the fact that like with a rifle squad, let me just double check to make sure, because I've been using the veteran rifle squad, very easy upgrade in this conquest. I haven't felt the need, believe it or not, I haven't felt the need to really go more from a rifle squad because
I've been using the airborne troops. They're quite fun.
Oh yeah, they're a blast too.
But, I would say the only thing that's let me down in US conquest is, I know obviously they tried to make the squads a bit more realistic, but like in the Russian and German when you have like a full SMG squad, I was really hoping for a full Thompson paratrooper squad, and it's just not there. Which is a shame because
I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a support. Listen, Barbed Wire Studios, if you're listening right now, get us for the support options. Give us paratroopers, please.
Oh yeah,
that would be
awesome.
Disgusting. And you know that we'd have something to lose because if the enemy ends up shooting down the plane before it can paratroop and behind enemy lines, exactly, then you lose the squad. So it's actually like a win-win, and I think that's a disgusting feature.
Put it on for when we're being attacked, because in Conquest Enhanced they are using paratroopers, and it's actually quite good because it means you have to kind of defend those gaps in your lines.
Yeah.
And they also paratroop. You know those weird paratroop weapons like the 76mm rocket launcher thing? That's 2-man.
Mm.
That is what gets paratrooped on Conquest Enhanced as well. So the enemy gets some like AT as well behind your line. So you have to be very proactive in your defense.
Right.
It's cool.
I did. Oh, this is freaking disgusting, dude. This is so awesome. So, okay. So back to my point with this whole thing. You end up with heat rounds to start with the first freaking, okay, no matter what it is that comes out on the battlefield, especially within, from day 1 to day 4.
Oh, do you get Grenadier in the standard squad? I forgot that.
Yeah, you get it in this. Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
right.
you dillhole.
Whoa.
I win.
Who
I win.
Well,
I'm calling you a dillhole. You're the freaking dill pickle jar, dude.
The bazooka still never stands up to the Shrek of the Faust, though. It just doesn't. The actual bazooka, the bazooka's nowhere near as stronger the Shrek of the Faust. Still, by then you shouldn't really need it if you're using other options, but that's what I mean. The US infantry is strong in some elements, and then it tapers off in some others. Because like the Russian side is complete bullcrap. The fact that they get so much access to Shreks and Faust, which they didn't have that much access to them. They had some capture ones, but with the US they've tried to balance it. But what they should do, I think, as well, is take out the Shreks and Fouls from the Russians because they weren't as available.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I know they're trying to balance the game, but
keep in mind, though.
You know what I mean?
But keep in mind, so I don't want to get too far ahead of us or this here, because the original thing was, are they effective early on, like as effective as the AT rifle squad? AT rifle. That's that's where we started with. I said early though. You know what I mean?
The grenade's more powerful, but I do like the AT rifle for its range, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure, but I just don't like the range drop off. Like, as you're watching it, when you're using, or the damage drop off.
Yeah.
The range drop off, the damage drop off. Yes. So when you're aiming and stuff, if you don't know this, if you're new to the game or what have you, and for those who do know, just bear with us. You're looking when in the center of the screen when you're aiming at someone. You're going to see a little green or red box. If it's red, that means you're not going to pen. Even if it's green, just remember, velocity matters. You may be penning, but you might not be doing much damage. So
well, even if you penetrate as well, sometimes it just won't do anything inside.
Right,
It might not hit a crew member.
Exactly, yes. So, let's say you hit a crew member. It's like, oh, I got him. But the thing is, the range and that drop-off of damage, you may have just done a little bit of damage to the crew member. So that's why I'm saying, that's why I like the Grenadier. Because if I'm hitting something, I'm using an heat round, right? So I'm going to do damage. There's going to be dispersion, a burst damage on impact. And honestly, I've had some in my campaign more recently even. I have some crazy kills from far away. And I'm just saying. I'm still using the rifle squad. Granted, I did upgrade to the veteran rifle squad. Here I am I think I'm at day 12 now in that campaign. But yeah, I'm just saying that's the thing. So like the diversity of the U.S. units is huge. You had brought up the that light vehicle anti-mine, right? Or
is it the M7 light anti-tank mine or something?
Something like it's like this little green pouch thing, right? But man,
little box looking thing. Yeah.
Yep. But like that thing alone, being able to put that down on the road, just putting it down, put it on one of the tracks of the road, and holy shit, dude! Like a light vehicle, like I have a few clips of that too. That's kind of wild, but they just come with a lot of options, man. It's a pretty powerful.
Yeah, very flexible. Like I'd say. Obviously, the M1 Garand is filthy. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
Best
haven't even
medium
gotten
range
into it.
To close range weapon in the game. I'd say the only place where I think other factions infantry. So, like, if you've played some of the squad, you'll know that the machine gun that comes into the 30 caliber, which is 2-man crew, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a bit of a letdown. Like, if you come up against something like a decent German squad with the MG42 trooper, obviously single man LMG set up. You'll lose at long range, but yeah, I'd say the US troops are the best at close to medium by far.
But
the only thing that really scares them is things like the STG. Like when you come up against is it Sturm Grenadier squads and stuff, they're lethal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe we go from let's do this, man. We can let's just kind of let's go this route because we got plenty of time for this.
Okay.
How would you feel about comparing apples to apples when it comes to the factions. So like you said that obviously the Germans and the Soviets will have a bit. They have a you know they're better with their tanks, right? Like they have the bigger tanks and stuff.
I'd say better, like better super. It doesn't mean better. Like people argue which tank's best, but I'd say things like the Americans don't have an equivalent of the IS-2,
Mm-hmm.
and they also don't have equivalents of things like the King Tiger. But they have their own obviously variants. Like they obviously have Shermans that can do everything. They have flamethrower Shermans. They have Shermans with a 105. They've got mortar half. They've got everything vehicle wise. But when it comes to like super heavies, the biggest thing they field is the Persian, which is not a bad tank, but still it has its like even some of the super heavies, it has its drawbacks as well.
Right. Well, so let's start with the infantry between all four factions. How would you put them in order? From top to bottom, like their best to the worst. Now, if you haven't spent the time in it yet, then we can just generalize
really
now, and we'll do a real video on it.
It's really tough because ironically, I'd put one of the top ones as the Finns because they have some really filthy units. And
they do.
It's the one
they
thing
definitely do. But
probably US first because of versatility. It's easiest to use.
Yep.
And I'm going to say Finns because people will argue against that, but if you use the Finns correctly, the Finns literally cannot lose a range firefight with things like marksman troops and stuff. They're just ridiculously
They're
accurate.
So good. They're so good.
Yeah,
dude. It's hard to actually understand.
Then probably Russians, then Germans last because Russians have access to. I know the Russians don't beat the Germans at long range a lot of the time, but like they have the guard unit, not the guards. The what are
the guards?
They're the ones with body armor.
Yeah. No, you're talking about the assault engineers.
Yeah, they have like 400 health plus body armor.
Plus
like
body armor.
Really,
yep.
Yeah, they have some ridiculous stuff, but yeah, I still like Germany a lot. But yeah, I think infantry's a really weird one where Germany they do have some good units, but they also have like a lot of mismatch units in there as well.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Oh, dude. So like, I have to give it to. I'm gonna say the U.S. first. Their versatility, the things they get, the fact that you can get a bazooka in a squad, just right. I mean. The heat rounds, disgusting. I don't know if you saw this, but the later version. Oh, what is it? The 82nd Airborne. One of those squads. It's eluding me right now, but they end up having. They literally regenerate health 2 per second, 2 health a second.
That's ridiculous.
And I noticed that because I'm doing a separate campaign offline, just testing all the troops out. And they get wrecked, lay them down, and you just watch their health literally goes back up. And they have like 350, I think, 350 HP. So like, that's disgusting. Now I will say, the fact that they come out with it, you can get them with a 50 cal as support. On top of that, so now you're not even having to worry about going down that tech tree for the. For like the 50 cal, 30 cal, and the whatever the other one is, the early 30 cal. Like you're getting so much more for bang for your buck and whatnot. Now, when it comes to number 2, this is very tough for me. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as one other thing I want to say is the M1 Garand is Garand.
Dirty.
Yes, is stupid. It's a late game gun. An 8-round clip that you can semi-automatic fire as fast as you want.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't do what Mace did, where your first squads are armor Springfield rifles. I was really expecting the first squad to be.
I thought the same thing.
I can understand the saying US came in at 1944, blah 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 blah. Oh, obviously they came in early, but obviously Western Front D-Day, 1944 time. But I do think Barbed Wire Studios didn't think, you know what, we're giving
them the freaking endgame gun, dude. It's ridiculous. It shreds if you're up close to anything. Day one, you can insta kill. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just way ahead of the game. I don't know. That's why it's like they are the best infantry from the beginning to the end. They are the best. I'm sorry. Some of you may disagree because of the like, for instance, the thing with the Germans is like. They have all the tools. You get the Pioneer Squad, they have all the tools that they need. But they don't have the same firepower, though. They're not starting out with the MG42. If they did...
No faction has unless there's a kind of new squad added, there's nothing that has the same firepower as the M1 Garand, because even your best Russian squads only have like 3 or 4 semi-autos.
Right.
And even your best the only thing the Germans get later on is when they bring in like dual MG42s in the Fallschirmjägers and stuff. But like by then, you know what I mean? Like it's good, but by that part of the game, your infantry is not probably as important than what's supporting them. Artillery, tanks,
Right.
You know.
And so even their guns, yeah, like getting later on, of course. Everybody knows, like if you talk to any US soldier that was in World War II, I watch a lot of those like videos of like what happened. And they always talk about the MG42 and its disgusting power. That ripping sound was
the 34 was actually better than the 42. You know?
Oh, bullshit.
No. If you look into it, so the MG42 is actually easiest to produce and cheaper. The MG34 had a slower fire rate, but it also had a double action trigger, so you could fire it single shot or fully automatic. It also didn't need its barrel changes much.
Okay, sure. Maybe that, but I would still say that the MG42 was the most feared. I mean, it was
because most of the time they would be fighting MG34s anyway. They're more on the field. But if you ask also the German soldiers who use them, the MG42 was too fast because the MG34 was like 900 rounds a minute anyway. You didn't need any more speed.
Right.
You were still ripping. You were still cutting someone in half with it. It was like the MG42 was so fast. It was like that. You know, like when they fire the burst.
Yeah.
You're like, that was because if you held the trigger, the barrel would melt.
Well, for the sake of the game, MG42 easily destroys the 34.
Sorry, Puggo is not a man of this history.
No, you're right. No,
he cares about modern houses, cheeseburgers, and Domino's. That's all he cares about.
No, and I care about what the game's producing. And I will say, like, maybe this is the truth. Maybe that's what it is. I'm assuming that's right? But the thing is, again, I still look at it from the standpoint of the MG42 in this game.
MG42,
is way better in this game, and
it's ridiculously fast. Yeah,
you just laser people, and so that's like a big thing. But again, their weapons don't outshine other factions. I'm sorry, the PPSH is ridiculous.
PPSH is amazing, but too close range.
Like, you have to be close. You have to be, otherwise it gets wild. But I will say, I mean, there's a lot of times where I'm clearing out an area, and I feel like I shine better as like, taking over a character with the PPSH 41. I mean, it's just.
I'd say though the Thompson with its power, I've really enjoyed that because it's steady fire rate means it's actually not too bad for controlling. I've really enjoyed the Thompson. You just don't get enough of them in the squads.
Yeah. And So what it comes down to is the thing with what the Germans produce that the others don't is the time, like all the equipment that they have per squad, and so it's very difficult. When I look at but I will say that when I look at the Russians, it's like I love their units. I just love their late game soldiers. I think that they're better.
The Russian
that body
late game
armor
stuff are
is
very
disgusting.
Very specialized, like they've got the Flamethrower squad, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. You got a flame. Yeah, it's literally it's right after the assault engineer.
Yeah, like those squads are very specialized, but you get them in the right position, and they're just ridiculous. Having 3 or 4 flamethrowers in a squad plus body armor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So with that, I'm gonna go with the problem is all 3 of the other ones are so close. They're just very different. Like you said, the Russians are more specialized, so I think that they drop down. Not that they're not good; they are very, very good. They're probably my favorite to play as, especially that this
communist.
And then
he's a commie. Get him.
I'm just saying. I don't know. This is really tough. I'm gonna go with Germans, Russians, and then Finland. And the reason why Finland last. Mm-hmm.
You son of a gun.
But it's close. Here's the problem with Finland. Like I do notice one of the things I do like about Finland. You know, they come with the phosphorus smoke rounds, like the first squad, and they are when we get to like marksmen, they're very, very good.
Anti-tank satchel charges on all the late game squads. The amount of AT satchels they have,
I know,
are ridiculous.
It's ridiculous,
that's
right?
Famous.
And that's one of the and that's very good. But I'm just not as like there's just not enough variety and not like stacked equipment that I would prefer when I'm playing.
I can see that, yeah.
I understand. Like I said, it's really close. It's all close. But I think the Germans are just so diverse.
You do have to. I would say one thing with Finland: you have to play a certain way with the infantry. It's not as fun like the marksman squad. You have to basically do the long range fights and use the sniper support, which is great when you use it. But I will admit, like, there's certain times where you're like, and once again, my men are plinking away at 200 meters.
Well, see, and that's why I'm saying, like, I'm looking at it from a standpoint, if somebody was to pick up the game, play it, have basic knowledge, what would you want them to play as?
Why do you need to pick up the game? It's on Steam. It's in your computer.
But you know exactly what I'm saying. If newer players come to the game and they're trying to figure out which one's going to be the best, that's going to help me out. Some people are going to want their soldiers to do whatever they do, like just set them up and then have them whatever. Hopefully they survive. Yeah. Some people are actually going to use the tactics, and some people are going to need all the equipment because shit happens fast in Gates of Hell. And I think that the Germans are second-hand the most equipped compared to the others to take on a situation. Yes. That's just how I feel about it. So that's why Finland falls. That's the reason that, more specifically, why, even though the Soviets are very good with their infantry, like I love their infantry, they're not as equipped. Like, they're specific. Yeah. You know, they're very specific to a thing that they're doing.
I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I do. Cool. So U.S., Germans, Soviets, and then finally Finland. But that does not mean that Finland's bad. I need to stress that, because when you said Finland, I totally get it. For you, I think, of course, you're going to be better with Finland.
What you trying to say? What are you trying to say, man?
I'm calling you
Who are you calling you people?
You're stealing shit. Yeah, that's... Gosh damn it here. As Navajo and Cherokee, I can tell you to shut the hell
Navajo
up.
And Cherokee? Do you mean the cars? Nice, I didn't know you had both of them.
That's a Tahoe, you jackass. Anyways.
Hey,
All right. So, let's see. So now that we got that out of the way, do we want to keep going on that, or just kind of...
Well, we could do tanks. I could probably do the tanks off the top of my head. Okay. Tanks, overall, who's best? Germany, Russia, US, Finland, and I'll explain. Finland, obviously, bottom, just use reused tanks, doesn't get a lot of the specialists yet, as things like the Landsvark and BT-42, but Finland's bottom. The reason I put the US third, it's going to be a thing, it's like you said, lots of Shermans and medium tanks. The Sherman is, about 34 pop cap? Is it 34?
The Shermans? The Shermans are, yeah. What do you mean?
Was it 25? The population, how many points did it take up in the population?
It depends. What tank are you talking, though? Specific.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the Shermans are quite expensive for what they are, population-wise. So it's not like real life where you can deploy, 10. And I find that even though there's some good Shermans, you do kind of get eked out by the more specialist units. That's why I put them third.
Okay.
And I'd say Russians second, because obviously you've got good things with like the T-34 anyway. You've got good specialist stuff like the IS-2, the Su-152, all that kind of stuff. And I think the Germans take the top thing, because the Germans literally have a tool for every job, and they have a very specialist tool for every job. I'd say, like, you have things like your Nashorns, your Ferdinands, your King Tigers, your Tigers, you've got your Panzer, and then you've got things like the Panther, which Panther's got 185, 190 mils pen. It pretty much outpens almost every tank in the game, and that's just the Germans' medium tank. You know what I mean? Like, the Germans are still the best tank faction, but I'd say, yeah, so it goes Germany, Russia, US, and Finland for tanks for me.
Yeah.
Tank/armored vehicles, I guess.
I'm admittedly torn.
Okay.
And, okay, so here's what I want to say. I actually want the order to be the same as the last one. So it'd be 1,000%. I'm sorry, nobody can convince me that Germans are not top dogs. The fact that
tanks, yeah.
Yes, they're top dogs in the tanks, 1,000%. Yeah. Like, anybody who wants to debate that, like, I don't know. I would like to hear. I would like to hear the angle. I'd like to hear the angle.
One simple thing as well is when people say, "Oh, well, the super heavies didn't really work in real life." No, they didn't. But like Puggo said, we're just talking about combat ability in Gates of Hell. There's no vehicles breaking down randomly or falling in the mud. There's nothing that compares to the Tiger or King Tiger.
Yeah.
Even the Russians look at that and go, "Christ, that's big."
Right. And that's the whole. That's exactly it. I mean, like, we have to keep it focused just on the game, guys. If you know the historical facts and all that, I can totally get behind it. But so But so the reason why a part of me wants to put the U.S. ahead is I have played the Soviets copious amounts. I played the Soviets more than I played any other faction, and I started out playing a shit ton of Germans, right? And what I've learned, I always thought the reason that I liked the Soviets was because of more of the guerrilla tactics and moving tanks quickly to points. And granted, the pop cap has changed. See, look at me. I'm
Yes.
using the same verbiage as you know. But
About time.
oh, yeah. No, but the truth of the matter is though, I just the Sherman tanks, well, not even that, the GMC tanks. I'm a huge like the tank destroyers. I freaking
Yeah.
love them for the US. I like them more than what I like the Soviets. And a lot of the
Yeah,
reason is
because
because they
the
have the
turret.
heads, the turret, exactly. The
Yeah.
turret being able to move around, the versatility, the speed. The
I
freaking
believe
GMC
aren't the
hell
tank destroyers literally built on a Sherman hull anyway as well?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
they do actually have fairly decent hull armor, some of them as well, which
yeah,
is nice.
it's
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 just that, yeah.
yeah, I mean, listen, is it perfect? No. I mean, we're talking about tank destroyers right now. If we're like,
Well, the
I know
US
there's different
literally
classes
made
of this.
the US made tank destroyers how they originally were designed, which was high speed, get in, shoot the target, fall
Yep,
back. Which, if
yep,
anyone reads about the Wolverine or
mm-hmm,
what was it, the Hellcat?
yep. The Hellcat.
If you actually read the journals, when they used them correctly, there was one with like 15 kills or something. Like, they were really good. Whereas the Germans and Russians went the opposite thing and made tank destroyers that were ridiculously heavily armored
Yeah,
and basically just very, in my opinion, they were just tank hunters. Where the US actually did the hit and run version. Because the idea was the Shermans keep you busy, the tank hunter pops up, blows up the big tank, then falls back. Whereas the Germans and Russians basically just made really powerful tanks with big guns on.
right. And I think it's interesting. This is just kind of side fact here, but when when they were in the desert and whatnot, the Sherman, or well, not the Shermans, but was it the Tigers? Not Tigers.
Tigers,
Was it the
Dukes,
Tigers? I'm trying
Panthers.
to think. Well, the thing was is that they had a fuel capacity that allowed them to. They were slow. You know the whole
Yeah,
tortoise and the hare, that whole thing.
yeah, yeah.
That was literally the idea. This was something back then. They actually had this idea that they had enough. The engine was only going to consume so much fuel that they could get through the desert way faster or at a more steady pace. And so
Who was that? The Tigers.
I believe it was the Tigers.
Oh,
And
yeah, it might have been,
so
yeah.
so what happened was the US decided, well, not the U, well, I think it was British, decided that
Yeah.
they were with the Stuarts. They're like, we want to make these things fast and have a certain fuel capacity, but the problem was is that by the time, even though they were faster and were trying to fly out into the desert, they
Yeah,
didn't, the fuel
burn through
capacity
it.
would run out. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so the steadiness of these, I don't know, I just thought it was kind of one of those things where it's like the design of these tanks and how they went about war is, I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that they're showcasing that through this game, because the
Yeah.
US admittedly, when I'm playing these tanks, and the Shermans all feel a little bit different. They're not crazy,
No.
but like I would have to say that these specific tanks are freaking, I love the range of the tank destroyers, as tank destroyers
Yeah.
should have more range, but it's the fact of the versatility. These
Yes.
Hellcats, I cannot tell you. If you guys have not tried a Hellcat in this game, the GMC Hellcat, get that freaking tank and have some fun. And that's my style. And I know people don't like it, they think it's reckless or whatever, but like I like the hit and run. I like to go in, hit something, get the hell out of there. And I feel like for me, that's why I think the US faction, it's not just based on that alone, but the firepower of the US faction, to feel like your tanks are going to defend themselves better as well when infantry is running up, because that's been one of my issues, is I like to get my tanks closer than they should. And I just have found myself so far feeling as if the US has the US faction is better suited for my style of play.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Which
really what
is,
it is, because that's really what this
yeah.
game is about. It's like when you're playing, you have to decide what's best for you, but there is no comparing any of these other factions to the Germans in terms of the
No.
tanks. I'm sorry, they're just
No.
not. But
But like you say, different kind of tank doctrines as well.
sure.
Even the Russians are quite different to the Germans with how the tanks do. I know the basic tactics sit in there, but even things like the IS-2 is very different to the Tiger.
Hmm.
The IS-2 is literally there to take out positions. It can take out anything with HE. The Tiger still takes a bit of finesse. Like, it's an absolute beast if you use it right, but if you just drive it up against something really heavy, you'll still get tracked and end up getting killed. So, like, yeah, there's different kind of tactics to it.
Well, and here's the other thing too that comes to mind. So like the Soviets, when they made their tanks, the idea is they didn't want anybody retreating. So like when you when you push those tanks forward, they would front load armor onto tanks. Because they didn't want them to. They wanted you to be too afraid to turn the tank to get out of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And so that's why when you are using the Soviets, there's a reason that they didn't have as many turret heads that would turn, or they were more focused on we're gonna go straight forward, we're gonna kill, we're gonna keep moving, kill, keep moving. And if you
also
turn,
simplicity.
Yeah,
that was a big thing.
Exactly.
Like, people forget the US was in perfect shape for a war. Like, they were pumping out Shermans and everyone was drinking Coca-Cola and smoking and dancing. The Soviets were literally just like dying in droves and having to pump out tanks because remember they got what was it? They got to the outskirts of Moscow at one point. The Germans,
yeah,
like, it was that close to being over for them.
Yeah, and so that's why this is why I'm bringing it up. I'm really putting heavy emphasis on this, is because your style of play matters. So Sir Jellybean said it earlier. Germans made armor on all sides and massive guns. They just were big old turrets. We'll move forward. We'll kill something. Keep moving. The Soviets were like, no retreat. You're going forward. We're going to make this, like you said, simplistic. Front load the armor. Get enough. Have whatever size shell we need to take out the enemy. And that's that. The U.S. was, we need to get there quick. We need to hit them hard. We need to overwhelm them. That's what you're getting here. And for Finland, fudge Finland.
Finland is
ass.
Finland,
but understandably, it's pretty much German.
They started the Winter War with less tanks, and they stole so many they ended up with more tanks.
Yeah, so they just.
I think the Finns
they're the modern day World War II. Well, they're the modern military hoarder. Okay.
At the start of Winter War, I think they didn't eat. I think it was less than 100 tanks. It's like a really small amount, and most of them are obviously World War One or things that they just picked up. So Finns never really had much tanks anyway. Like they've always just been artillery and infantry tactics.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny. I don't know, man. It's just funny to me. So we're a little bit different in that regard. I do like the firepower of the US too. I understand that, obviously the IS-2. We can't. I'm not trying to compare, any of these to that. But I can say is if I can get a broadside shot on these tanks, I'm going to be all right. And I think that that's what the U.S. does really well is they're fast, they're mobile.
The U.S. hasn't got the standoff capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got good tanks and things, but what I'm saying is my latest video actually shows it. Even the Persian, against the biggest things, like if you're at 200 meters away against a King Tiger and IS-2, they're going to beat you.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10. So the US does not have as good standoff. Like, they can't just stand there and take the hits as well. They still can take some hits. Don't get me wrong. They do have some good armor on some things, but like you say, you've got to kind of use more. One thing anchors it in place, the other thing flanks with the US. Whereas with the Russians and Germans, you can get a bit more away with just sending the big tank, sit there, keep firing until it's dead.
So let's segue from that on what the US may have used to help with this issue. Okay, so let's talk about artillery then. Between all 4 factions.
Which one's first?
Yep, which one's first?
This is tough. So
this is very tough. It's tough, but I think it's still obvious for me. Like,
I'm a bit biased. I like the Germans for the nibble sniffer, the Neffelwerfer, as we know it as.
Yep.
And their guns are pretty good, but because the Katusha's weird, right? The big Katusha, the Andrusha, which Puggo shot at me, I believe. Still remembering it. Actually, the Russians probably eke out because they also have the Andrusha, so probably the Russians over the Germans, but they're very similar. Like, it's weird, like, because obviously the Russians and Germans have very similar artillery pieces. They both have big rocket artillery, they both have big artillery, they both have small rocket artillery. The Russians probably have better options. The US artillery is pretty damn good, though. I can't lie.
There's something that I've noticed between all 3 factions. I'm going to say all 4.
What's that?
That does make the US different.
What's that? Mobility?
Mobility you can put mobility as one of them for sure. They
Most
definitely
things
were
tend
they
to be
were
on a vehicle.
definitely ahead on the mobility category. I mean, if you look at any of these, they've got full on tires here, easier for towing, getting out there, and so on. But but no, that's not it. That's not it. And I have noticed this, and I could be wrong. Anybody can correct me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about this.
Just tell us then your turn.
All right, I will. The U.S. accuracy has way better accuracy.
Right.
I mean, holy shit! Use their cannons and look at the accuracy cone and how close it actually is hitting. Depending on which one you're using, it is unbelievable how accurate some of these artillery pieces are. Now, I will say, go ahead. Well, finish up with your what's your order, and then I'll take mine, and then we can have a conversation about it.
Mine's probably biased because I really like the 30cm rockets for the Russians and Germans, but I say the Russians are first because they do have far more options for rocket artillery.
Yeah.
And I do like that. Then the Germans, I haven't used the US as much, but I'd say US third, but I do like the US's, like the Sherman, is it Calliope?
Calliope? Yeah, Calliope.
Calliope, that's it.
Yep.
That thing is insane. The fact that you can just take hits and keep pumping rockets out. And obviously last is Finland. Finland have really good field artillery, but field guns are really good, but like you say, they do lack in some other areas, the Finns on artillery.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans eke out one thing as well because they have a Carl Gustav, the 600mm mortar, which can just lay waste.
Yeah, so you're saying you're gonna go Germans,
Russia, Germany, America, Finland.
Russian, Germany, American, Finland. Okay.
Finland, yeah.
I'm gonna go with and this is going to surprise people based on how I was talking, but I'm going to go with the Germans, Russians, US, and then Finland. Now, you may be... It's very similar, but the reason is because the Germans just have so much unique firepower. I don't know, like the Nebelwerfer, the Walking Stuka now you're having some more unique units. A lot of people go to that specific extent. The problem that I have with the Germans is the accuracy. You get into the really big guns, they are just so wildly inaccurate. It's like, why?
The 21cm doesn't even hit on the map.
Yeah, exactly.
It hits. Our friend Sheba's playing, and a round just drops in on the screen and blows up a building. He's like, crikey, mate.
Like, it makes no sense. And so you might say, well, then, Puggo, why are you? Because the reason I am is because the Nebelwerfer is insane and very accurate. I'm sorry, but accuracy is massive in this thing.
The 30cm Nebel is weird. Like, I was saying this to you as well. You know, the Russian 30cm rockets, they're not as big as the Nebelwerfers. The Nebelwerfers are freaking huge. They're like cast iron pans.
Exactly.
But they're both still classed as 30cm, which I don't really understand. I didn't look into it enough, but yeah, the only reason I really like the Russian stuff is because, like, the Andrusha has 12 shots in. Like, they do have some really high capacity MLRS, multiple launch rocket systems. Sure. They do have some, like, it can be filthy, but but I'm gonna say that all factions, even the Finns, like, they still have access to a ridiculous, like, every faction could just pound any faction into the dust if you really want.
Right, but there are some key things that do make them. The reason. So, like, with Germans, let me go a little bit farther with this. The Hummel, I've used it. Fantastic. Absolutely love the Hummel.
Hummel, Wesp, they're both fantastic.
Yes,
and the Grill.
Very, very good. The Vesp, I'm on the fence because of the accuracy. It seems very inaccurate, but whatever, right? At the end of the day, you can get it very early, and it's devastating. I haven't used the Panzerwerfer 42.
Panzerwerfer's pretty decent.
Pretty good. Okay, so I haven't used that, so I can't say. But what I will say is I have used the packs extensively, and you can get them very early, very fast. I mean, you get the 7.5, the 7.5 pack. As soon as you hit that, the 38, it's like, it's ridiculous.
The 38's the French one with the heat rounds.
Yes.
The pack 40 is the standard one.
Yeah. But my thing is like, you see this, if you're ever playing Germans, that specific thing always...
It's a beast.
It just is so disgusting. My point is, it's very easy to get to these things. It's very devastating. The accuracy's there. I like it. I just think that they are... And, of course, the Nebelwerfer. If you haven't tried it, guys, give it a shot. You will freaking... Yeah,
the Nebelwerfer is weird because the 15 and 21 is good, but the 30cm jumps up so much. Mm-hmm. You get six rounds in it like the 15.
Yep.
But the firepower is ridiculous. It'll take out tanks in a single shot as well.
Unbelievable. Yeah, exactly. And so with the Russians, however, the Russians are one that I've used extensively, so this is where it comes from in that regard. I do like the fact that you can I have to just pull this one thing up here. Let's start with the Katusha. The Katusha is really, or the Andrusa. The Andrusa.
Oh, we all remember that.
Oh my God! If you haven't seen that, I'll link the video so that way you guys can jump up. You can see exactly. There's some PTSD. I sat on the controller and killed him. That's pretty much it. Here's the thing. The Katusha I love. The Andrusa is freaking ridiculous. Absolutely love that as well. It's very accurate. You can fly up onto the point. I love the range of it too, but the accuracy is so damn good. The 152 millimeter cannon, that thing is very disgusting. Good. The thing that with howitzer. It's so accurate, dude. Especially when you're using.
I think it's because it's a howitzer.
Yeah, but
it's specifically a howitzer.
It's just so damn accurate, and it's a decent reload time, I believe. From what I've used it, it's been pretty good for me. The other thing too is the Zis 2, the Zis. Well, say the F-22. Anytime you get to like the F-22, that thing is disgusting as well. It kind of reminds me of the same as the Pack. It's very fast reloading. It's got a good armored shield. And you can fly right through this chain very fast with these tank destroyers. Or with the field guns, rather.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just feel like the Germans have... Once you unlock the Andrusa, you'll understand why it's so freaking amazing. Now, the Calliope I have not tried out yet. Admittedly, I've only watched people use the Calliope.
I think it's good. I think it fires. It's very useful as well for the fact that you're on that tank chassis, so you don't have to worry so much about it just getting sniped by something light.
Now, is it true that you get two fire? Like you can fire twice?
It's got 60 rockets loaded into a magazine. It fires 30 in a salvo, but altogether you have about 120. So you're basically getting 4 shots of 30.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of ammo.
That's
it's
insane.
A bit like the Walking Stew could get 6 loaded in and 12 spare, which in real life, obviously, it didn't, because it wouldn't be able to carry it. But like some of these rocket units have a ridiculously good ammo amount.
Yeah. And so with the Calliope, I'm going towards the end of the tree and then work my way to the front. And the reason is because of the fact that, like,
excuse me,
you're ultimately, when you're going down this tree, you're looking for that specific unit, right? And so I haven't tried the Calliope. Maybe that changes my mind. But what I will say is, if it does have 2 separate salvos, that's disgusting. Accuracy-wise, how was the accuracy? Did you try that?
Pretty good. I thought the accuracy was pretty good when I've used it. I've been playing with it in skirmish and stuff. It gives you like a nice. It spreads out enough to be damaging, but not too much. You don't want something to be too accurate, because otherwise you waste rounds. But it's great. Yeah, it's a good all-time unit, like all-round unit. I think it's good. It's just a bit pricey, obviously, but you'd expect that.
So with that, then it comes down to like the actual. So like you get a bunch of the HMCs, so pretty much the half tracks essentially.
Yes.
The half tracks with the cannons on it, they're fast. They get into place. Again, I like that guerrilla tactic thing. The problem that I have and why they fall, while the accuracy is fantastic, they are just slow. I mean, not slow. They're very lightly armored. Like these things can be taken out so freaking easy. Like
well, I find they also have a very poor things the AI, but mine always hit every object, but even worse than every other vehicle. My US half tracks, if I use it somehow managed to find every pebble that'll almost flip it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Sorry about what I do, but the Pathfinder AI went up in Content Update 5 and then went down in Liberation.
Right.
It was an emotional roller coaster for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Big time.
Absolutely, dude. There's a lot of pathing issues from Liberation. We thought it would be better. But other than that, again, the guns are very accurate. That's the main thing. They're versatile. You can get them to point A to point B faster, and they're insanely accurate. If accuracy matters for you, and then then you're gonna love this faction, especially as you get into bigger.
Does not matter. Just keep dropping artillery.
I just want things to blow up. That's it.
Just destroy everything. The new destructible terrain, you'd be missing out if you don't.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally Finland. Finland has some unique equipment that I really like. There's There's the one. I'm gonna have to look it up here, but there's one.
Is it the siege mortar, the 17 centimeter?
It's the prototype. It's that prototype.
AT gun, the
Yes,
100 and oh yeah, the weird one that looks like it's been
dude,
hit with a hammer. It's a
I
beast.
freaking
What is it?
love
Is
that
it
thing.
100? Is it
It's
183 mils pen or something stupid?
something stupid. I mean, it's something. I'm
Yeah.
pulling it up right now. I'm gonna try to get to it.
After the German 88 millimeter
Oh
anti-tank
yeah,
gun,
the
it is the most
75
powerful
K,
in the
the
game.
K44 is
Yeah.
what it is.
It's a beast.
Dude, if you guys haven't tried this, if you haven't
It's
tried
the weirdest
cannon out,
looking gun in the world, though. It looks horrendous.
it looks like a freaking platypus, dude. It just looks.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
It's
look right.
182 mils pen. It's
Yeah, 182. Yep.
It's dirty. And the thing is, it's fast reloading. So it's 75 mil. So that thing will rip through an ice too at the front.
I do like the other thing that it's really low to the ground. This,
Yeah.
granted, it can be a pain in the ass if you don't get in the right position. You are SOL.
Yeah.
But in the right position, this is very difficult to hit. And the way the soldiers
it's
are
a
lined
beast.
up, they're like very. I mean, it doesn't look like you'd be well shielded. You get some of the guys on the outside you can kill, sure, but with the guy who's actually firing and the reloader, I mean, they're behind that plate.
Hard to hit.
Very, very hard to hit. So, and
Yeah,
the
actually looks
plate
very
is rated up
futuristic
to
gun,
6
doesn't it?
armor. So
I just realised it does look like something you'd find from like a sci-fi film, like a laser.
yeah, it looks ridiculous. But this alone is like the thing that I personally like to go for.
I like the Mine Werfer.
Yeah, the mine were. Yep. So that's
It's
the last
got
on the
crap
tree.
range, but the fact that it's 17 centimeter mortar, it's one of the most powerful guns in the game, and it will just tear chunks out of enemies.
Yeah.
I do like the Mine Werfer. But
Absolutely.
it's not that hard. It's not even that hard to get to either.
No, I will say their tree, because it's a little more dense. They do have. It does take more. Like I'm looking at it right now. So to get down to it, it's 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. So
I think you're quite dense as well, Puggo.
Well, you know what? You're not wrong, jackass. Now, I forgot to bring this up. I forgot. Going back to tanks real quick. When it comes to Finland, they have one of my top
BT-42.
BT-40. He knows right away. I'm obsessed with the BT-42. The range of that thing, one of the best tanks in the game. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I love it for its time.
It's literally the pure glass hammer. It's so lightly armored, but so powerful.
Oh my god, the range of this freaking thing.
What is it? I think it's max
fast.
armor.
It's fast, dude.
Yeah, it's 20 mil. And it got like 20 mils of armor. That's the only bad side.
Yeah. Oh,
it's just
100%.
down. If you go down a bit, down, to your left. See there? Down a bit more.
Right here?
There,
yeah.
It.
Yep.
Yeah, it's armor. So the max hull armor, it's 114 millimeter main gun. That's the best bit.
Yeah. But yeah, this is unfreaking believable. I have had
and it fires like an arc as well, doesn't it? So you can hide
it does have an arc. Yep. Yeah, we played one of the what was it? Like we just played a skirmish, and I had this thing sitting on the hill, and it sitting up on the hill, but it had the arc where it could go down the hill. It was just blowing you just see like a mass number of troops just dead from this thing, and then anything that came up, it was holding its own for a minute, but again, if it gets hit, you're gonna be in trouble. So there's a big explosion if this thing goes. So
it's a big leather boomer.
It's a very big boomer.
When the big boom got the boom, big boom.
Very, very big. So, yeah, holy crap, dude. These are good discussions. I've been enjoying this one. Let me tell you what.
Big boom.
Big boom.
Boom.
So, do we keep going with this? We're at hour and 13. We can keep going.
I think we got another topic we're going to cover.
Well, we still have the light. We still have the light, the trucks.
Do it quickly.
The trucks
do it
left.
quickly.
Okay, we're gonna do it quickly. I know. I like having longer discussions on.
So
We're
gonna rank what like half tracks and light vehicles are best.
Yes, light vehicles, half tracks.
Right.
This is gonna be pretty easy.
Germany, USA, Russia, Finland. No, wait. Germany, USA. Yeah, Germany, USA, Russia, Finland. Because obviously Germany's got those new ones which are ridiculous. They are insane.
Freaking believable. Yeah, I haven't released the video.
I thought the US would be
it's
unbeaten at half tracks, but these kind of like experimental German half tracks are
unbelievable.
they're just stupid.
They're very stupid.
Oh, is this the one we played? Me, you, and Pugger,
this is
me, you, and Chiba.
Yep. This is the one. Yeah. So
that was fun.
So here's the deal. I will be releasing an episode with us three. The problem is our internet. We're literally in 3 corners of the world. which doesn't
Different
make any sense. But
continents.
we're different. We're like almost. It's very weird. We are literally like the same distance, different parts of the map. It's freaking wild. But our internet does not like us. It does not like us all playing together. Understandably so. But let me. But okay, so you're saying Germans first, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. That's
Germany,
all. Yeah,
USA,
he's just like,
Russia, Finland.
you're like, yeah. Germany,
Yeah.
USA,
Russia, Finland.
1000%. It's not even close. Everything you just said, right to a T. And the only reason that I would almost argue for Russia to be last, but once I think about it, I'm like, the beats. Well, the
A6 and stuff,
yes.
basically. Yeah, like everything that Finland has good is basically Russian.
Yeah.
And the Russians also have the US half track as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
so
that's really the big difference. And the half tracks that the US have, again, they're unique. They're very unique vehicles and stuff.
But the Germans and US both have mortar half tracks. The Germans and US both have. Yeah, the US has the flame half track. Has that weird? No, the Germans have the flame half track. The US has the anti-tank half tracks, but so do the Germans. So I know the Russians have some pretty good armored cars, but the half tracks just outdo them. And things like obviously the Puma and stuff fall into that, which are just
the
dirty.
Puma. I'm sorry, Puma. Yeah. The Puma alone is
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's not even close. This is pretty easy. I don't even think there's no real comparison. I think that's the perfect lineup. So okay, cool. So there you guys have it. Let us know in the comment section what your lineup would be. What's your favorite, and if you feel we're missing something, let us know. So next thing is going to be the maps. So you want to start with that one there? Any
So the maps are probably the best bit of the DLC for me.
Okay.
I think they're even better than having the new factions, simply because they're actually, not being mean to Barbara Studio, it's nice to actually have some proper buildings. Like proper buildings, not just like wood huts everywhere or concrete buildings that you can't really interact with. The destructibility of the maps is really good. If no one's played the kind of French villages, if you've seen Band of Brothers, you can basically make that happen. You can blow the living crap out of everything. There's shrapnel going everywhere. And I don't know, everything just looks more colourful. It's nice to have some colour.
Yes.
Because I got really annoyed of like, oh look, another grey snowy map. Yay!
Look at this, it's Gotham. Woo!
Like, even Gotham, even Batman was like, God, I'm gonna have to get some red. Make them depressed.
Yeah.
But yeah, the maps as well. The design. I know they try and base the maps off real things, but the maps are fun in a way that's weird. Like there's lots of natural choke points with the buildings and the hedgerows, so you naturally get stuck in positions where you know it's gonna be tough. You're like, I need to push through that gap in the hedgerow, but I know I'm gonna get ambushed. But the only other option is to go across the really open field. So what do? Whereas on the very open eastern front maps, you just go and go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will say, in the same respect, like there are some fall maps that have really nice hills and stuff, and they're the diversity in terrain. So you'll have like a big field, you'll have like a few bigger hills. I would almost call it a bluff. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like a mini mountain, we'll call it. It's not the same thing, but still, just to give you an idea. The diversity in terrain, and also it not being just a cluster F, is really nice, because we talked about it before with the Televisoda maps. It's
they're awful.
They're terrible. They are, because the thing is, if the infantry sees you, if one infantry sees you through a lush green bush, all these bushes all over the damn place. Yes, I know.
It just opens up.
It just opens up, and there's this freaking cannon, and you weren't expecting a cannon in the bush, and
nope.
And then you get wrecked, and then afterwards you're like, dang it, I didn't have any Vaseline for my wounds.
I think another thing as well with the added things like tree bursts and you can tell Barbed Wire Studios have got better at making maps.
Oh my gosh,
because Tavosta maps to me were just like cliffs and water and swamps. I know they'll say, it was realistic, but it was really boring. But in these maps, if you look into the actual buildings as well, like the detail, some of the detail,
it's crazy.
Yeah, there's some detail. People are never going to appreciate half of the detail.
Yeah,
Like
That's
they just. But
freaking
if you
right.
take a good half an hour to look at some of the maps, you're just blown away. It's fantastic, and obviously like the Gothic kind of French culture, Gothic themed buildings are just beautiful in general. Some of my favourites. So I'm completely happy to spend hours blowing up churches in a good way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, if really look at it like this, if you play Hell Let Loose and come back to this game and look at what they've done.
Yes.
It's literally a top down of Hell Let Loose.
Yes, and to be
Unbelievable.
fair, there's also like the maps work better for this game. The map design of the Western Front maps works better for Ostfront than the original maps.
Right.
Yeah, I think the game flows a bit better on some of them.
Way better. And you know what? I
Way
was
better.
actually thinking about this in terms of playing. I was it we talked about this in a little bit in last one. We were
Yeah,
speculating as to how you'd go about like going into these towns and stuff. It feels like infantry matters. It feels like
yeah,
somebody who comes into the game is not going to be just thrusted into I'm going to get the biggest tank and that's all I need. You
yeah. You
can't
can't do
do
it
that in
now.
this game.
Me and
You
Tyler were
cannot do
playing
it.
skirmish the other day as the US, and basically infantry were getting hammered. Every time a Sherman tried to advance, a Panzerfaust was waiting in a hedgerow or a window.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whereas beforehand on the open maps, you have a Tiger or a Sherman or whatever, it doesn't matter because the infantry can be spotted from 150 meters away. There's nowhere to hide.
Right.
But on these Western Front maps, a lot of the time there's less than 100 meters line of sight. And if you're within 70 meters, 60 meters, you are basically screwed against anti-tank weapons because they will hit
Absolutely.
you.
And that's the thing that makes this so good. It's an infantry focused thing. And this is why the US looks so good in terms of the infantry is because the firepower that they have hiding in these buildings, any situation where a tank's rolling down the street, you're going to run out. You have your grenadier up close. You have your light tank mines, right? You
Yeah,
have so much it's so much better. If you watch like my last few episodes, dude, I talked about this in nauseum because I would have these all of the points that I had to capture were in the towns. And my tanks are just sitting on the outskirts of town just watching. And like anything they see, they're blasting, blowing up buildings,
yeah,
which is forcing this uh the natural atmosphere of hell, of just
yes,
destruction. Seeing the buildings blow up and then you see like a bunch
yeah,
of soldiers running down the stairs trying to get out of the building. Like that has happened in my playthroughs, and I even said 2 matches ago, I'm like, man, I need to get more soldiers in these. Like I thought I had enough. Like I'm okay with having 3 to 4 squads, and or 3 squads usually is what I run in with. But now I'm
yeah.
like, man, I need to get more diversified in my how I'm going about this because I'm not going to throw a tank in these towns. Like it's just too freaking all of a sudden you just see these little red dots popping out of every freaking little corner in a town, and
Yeah.
yeah, until I secure that first point, I'll obviously leave the tank down the road to make sure that it's good. But man,
Yeah,
it's forcing you to use a strategical mindset to be effective. And I absolutely
exactly.
freaking love it. I freaking love it.
And it actually pushes combined arms. Whereas before, I felt like, especially playing as the Germans or whatever, once you got to Tigers, it was like, right, Tigers go, send one infantryman forward as bait, Tigers push forward.
Hmm.
Whereas now it's like, move forward, need to send infantry squad to clear the hedgerow. You can't just send one guy, he's going to get shot in the face.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
like, like you say, the Eastern Front was nice, but Western Front is when this game's actually becoming this game.
Yeah. Well, and top of that, I want to add also, um, I've had friends that have walked away from this game because of the micromanaging and how difficult it was because when the game, well, early on, they didn't have a notification saying, hey, there's a minefield in front of you. You just had to look for the little sign. And if you didn't catch it, boom, everything blows up and you lose a bunch.
Yes,
And
yes.
so,
That
you know, but then when on the flip side, it's like, when do you have time to put mines down? When do you have
well,
time to really.
with the US you do because all the squads have them.
Exactly. And on top of that,
Yeah.
look at the hedgerows now. You have all these little cut points where you're making kill boxes, and it's
Choke points
considered.
everywhere. That's
Oh,
what I'm saying.
dude, my
Just
last
choke
defense.
points everywhere.
Yeah, my last defense mission, I had time to use my engineers and set up the hedgehogs, palisades, whatever you want to call them, And I would set them up to block these roads, forcing him to go down the road. Because I knew about where they were going to spawn. And it forced them into my mines. I actually felt like I can put mines down and not just guess and then them never even go down that way. I can force them into a place where they're going to have to... They have their strategy of trying to overwhelm. I have my strategy of funneling them up to kill them. And I think that...
it's good. It's
yeah,
cool.
you finally are able to use these things, man. I don't know, how often did you use mines? I mean, I used them, but...
Basically never, because like you say, the maps are so open.
Yeah.
I remember some maps it's like, oh, well, they're definitely going to come here because there's no way they're going to run through that barbed wire and trenches into me.
Yeah.
And the AI just goes, oh, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run straight into the muddy pit, into the barbed wire. And you're like, AI. There's no, it's
right.
like...
Why?
Well, and also now there's at least, like you said, if I cover the hedgerows with anti-personnel mines, the choke points, and they come into the town that I'm defending, great. My guns will shoot them. So... I know some people are moaning about the blockages, the hedgerows, and moaning about the terrain, saying, "Oh, it's hard to get around it." Remember, the AI is garbage. Sorry about my serious. It is. Giving the AI less options to where it actually has to push through means it works better. Right. Because I've noticed as well when they know, like the AI knows it's going up a road, it tends to send infantry before a tank. When the AI is just going anywhere because there's nothing in the way, things come in piecemeal, things get stuck up behind a tree. it just doesn't work. So,
yeah,
ironically, limiting the freedom of the map makes the maps better. And also, it's more realistic. Like, I don't know about you. You look at, like, if I look out my back window, there's a field. It's got hedgerows. It's got dips. It's got buildings to the right of it. It's got a bridge. Don't try and track me down, anyone. But real life, unless you live in, like, Siberia or, I guess, really deep rural America, you don't just get pure flat terrain. It's rare. It's very rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. Like that's what makes this game come alive. You know, like I actually just dropped a short to. I feel like I'm like plugging all this shit, and I'm not meaning to, but it's literally just the experience of the maps. Like I had a listen. I don't use flamethrowers as much as I would like to. If you watch again, back another plug. So when I did you did a guide. I think you had to have done a guide on flamethrowers, right?
Yeah, I did flamethrower tanks, yeah, and I did flamethrowers separate, I think.
So like flamethrowers, bazookas, any of those kind of things. The thing is, or not bazookas. What's another one here? I know flamethrowers. There was one other unit that I wasn't getting. So flamethrowers I don't get very often. Why? Because a lot of times the units that do have flamethrowers, they don't have a lot of health. And so, like, they have to stay alive long enough to look, and, you know, a lot of times they're hip firing, so you don't want to kill yourself. I've killed myself a few times because I burnt something, and because it was right next to me, my guy just lights on fire. So, but what I did was I had them along the hedgerows, and a tank comes over through, doesn't see me, and I'm crouched, like, gosh damn, dude, I'm gonna have to show you this after this thing, because it is great. But it's great because it feels like I can use these units and, you know, not feel like, oh, I gotta always watch them, you know what I mean? Because if I don't, they die, and it's like all that, you know, what they're capable of. Really, what a flamethrower can do is so many good things. You can build out a line of sight by burning out the bushes. You can burn houses down, specifically more in the Ostfront, because all them homes are made of wood. Yeah, but you can pretty much create your own path. But when a tank comes through a hedgerow and you can get right at the engine, they don't even see you, or hitting soldiers that are coming around the corner, it finally feels good. It finally feels good. And it wouldn't feel that way if you didn't have this diversity in the maps.
Well, that's literally fits what like when I was talking about the Eastern Front. It was over there. It was called maneuver warfare because there was so much terrain. It wasn't about really using the terrain to advantage all the time. It was, we'll just keep going further. We'll just keep outmaneuvering them and flanking further and pushing, basically spread the enemy over large amounts of terrain. Whereas in the Western Front, in the smaller part of Europe compared to Russia, you had to go through certain areas. You couldn't just be like, we'll go further south because eventually you're hitting the sea.
Right.
Or you're hitting the mountains. So, like, you had to push through these blockages. You had to push through these towns. And the maps show that better, I think. And also, like, just in general, barbed wire steel, if you ever make more Eastern Front maps, you'll learn from your Western Front maps now because the original maps are complete garbage compared to the new ones, personally.
Right.
The new ones are that good, which is a compliment. It's not shitting on the old maps. It's just saying the new maps are good.
Have you tried the new like any of the beach maps, like Utah Beach?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the beach maps. The beach maps cool. They're well designed. I like the water physics as well.
Yeah.
I thought they did some good work with them as well.
Yeah, the reason I'm bringing up the Utah Beach map is specifically because you were talking about how if you look out the back window, you're going to see the terrain is different and things are just it's not all flat. It's not just like this perfect earth. That map specifically, I freaking love because that hill that reaches up to the beach. I used to live in Michigan, and Michigan has some of the biggest dunes in the U.S. So if you don't know what dunes are, it's essentially the land comes up, like a sand dune, and so it literally curves down.
Do you think everyone here lives in like Alaska, like Siberia? Like,
no.
What's this sand you talk of, Sonny? Is it a bit like snow?
No.
When I go to the ice field and we sunbathe in the snow, and
dude,
what's this sand?
Listen,
I've got a snow tight.
I have said this to people here in Wisconsin, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. Like they think I'm talking about the movie Dune. Okay, so trust me, I get it. There are people who are gonna know and won't. But it's just like a bluff. Do you guys all know what the bluff is?
The film Dune is literally about sand dunes. So if anyone watches Dune,
if anyone watches
Dune and you don't know what sand is, just leave. Just leave that.
Okay, but specifically, if you look at the sand dunes in Michigan, you'll be like, holy shit. It's like the land just falls off a cliff. And it's just literally, you can get like little, it's almost like a metal saucer and go right down the sand dune. It's a lot of fun. But my point still remains is that the way that they did the sand dunes, they did such a good job. And the terrain that leads to the sand dunes is fantastic. Then over the sand dunes, you have that hill that goes down into different, it's the terrain you're talking about. They finally did it where it looks authentic. You're hitting hedgerows. If you were to burn them out, you'd see a different landscape, a different thing. They ended up, they added a town at the back end of it. And it looks like between the town and the sand dunes, or that hill before the sand dune, it looks like a marsh almost. Not quite a marsh, but it looks like it's like some wet fields there. And I just thought, good job. I mean, good freaking job, Barbware. I hope that going forward, like you just said, I hope that they do continue this with these other maps.
Well, they announced, obviously, we've got another topic to cover with the update, but they announced the next DLC is already underway. Don't know what it's going to be. I imagine it'll be on the Western Front because common sense. But if it's on the Western Front, like Italy or whatever they go to, I think now they've also got these assets in place. Like people forget a lot of these European architecture is quite similar. It's very different to Russian. So now they've put a lot of legwork in. They'll be able to do even better because they've already got some of the basic stuff built ready for it. Because a lot of the vegetation and stuff in France is very similar to like England or Spain or Italy or wherever.
Yeah.
So it'll save them a lot of time because they've had to obviously do all the Western Front stuff from the ground up because a lot of the Eastern Front stuff, even the trees, just didn't fit.
Yeah.
They were just complete. Yeah. So that's probably another reason why it's took them so long to get everything done.
So why don't we use that as the segue there then? We'll talk about update 141 or 141. What the hell am I saying? And also with that, because you brought up the fact of the next DLC, I'm gonna say it just because you pretty much already said the faction. I truly believe that it's going to be Italy. They have to have another faction facing. You know what I mean?
The only thing I could see, which is a massive curveball, but it could be done, and they might try and do it just for a bit because I saw them in the interview mention it. France and Vichy France. Because people said, why would they do France? Well, Finland was winter war. France, yes, it would be early war, but remember, conquest-wise, there was the Free French after. So you could do some really cool campaign where you have the early war kind of allied engagements against the Germans. But in Conquest, you could have all the French stuff for the early war, and then they basically would have similar stuff to the Americans. But people say, they won't do that. Well, look what they did with the Finns. The Finns would just copy and paste Germany and Russia together.
Yeah.
It would be a smaller DLC.
Yeah.
But I could see it being done because every DLC is not. This is the problem. People forget Liberation is probably the biggest DLC they'll ever do, unless they go full another theater. Like the next DLC will probably be more of the Scorched Earth, or is it Tavosta?
Telvasoda? I have no idea. I always say
Tell me the soda. The soda
I'm pretty sure
is
it's
the Coca-Cola.
I'm pretty sure it's Telvasoda.
All right, the Finns, the Stealing Finns DLC.
Oh, you bitch! Come on, say it right.
The Stealing Finns DLC. Anyway, that was
the thieves.
Yeah, that was like £8 or £9, and I think that's also another thing because if you got people coming in, they see like all the DLC, like Stellaris. If every DLC is a massive £20 Liberation one, it's going to turn people off as well.
Yeah, and I agree, but that's why I think Italy's going to be next. I think Italy comes in because you need another force to face the U.S. They recognize that the U.S. is the hot faction, and that's the faction that they literally said when they had the Wolfpack interview. And they said they wanted to move in on that, and then they asked them. Actually, Wolfpack had said prior to them admitting that they want to bring in that player base because we need to make money on this game to continue.
Yeah.
And so he did bring up, he said, well, what about like British? And he goes, well, we are planning the British and we will have them. But for now, this, yeah. So they did confirm that the British are coming. You know what I mean?
British coming.
Except this time they're on our side and they're bitches.
Yeah. What'd you say to me, you damn Yankee?
Well,
this is a man who
but they have to have an enemy,
is eating so many cheeseburgers, he has to be winched into his chair.
Well, but if you go Italy, can you face Italy and Soviets?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think Conquest, that's another thing. They need to do anyone can verse anyone. I want to do Germany versus Finland.
Oh,
I want to do USA versus Britain. I want free for all.
Oh my god!
I want to be able to go in and do Germany versus Germany. I don't care. I should be able to do whatever I want in Conquest because it's not historical.
Yeah.
I don't know why Barbed Wire Studios hasn't just added that in. That's a big loss.
I would kill for that just to see like Soviets versus the US, just to see. You know what I really like is I'd like to see like a battle simulator type of thing. I know it wouldn't work because of the pathing. I totally understand that, but I would like to see how they actually fared against each other without having them sit like without you putting them so many meters away.
You could do that in editor.
You can do it in the editor where they just play and then you watch them.
Yeah, you can spawn them in. But I'm not too good at doing that, but you can do it. You just have to. If you watch a bit of GM, it'd probably take you maybe half an hour to an hour to set up a big battle, but you can do it.
Interesting. Well,
you can even spectate a skirmish, can't you?
Yeah, skirmish. I have seen that you can spectate. I got plans for that, but okay. So let's finish out then. So you think that the French are coming next, and I'm thinking Italy.
It's probably going to be Britain or Italy, right? I'm just saying the French could happen because he did mention Free France, the Free French. And I thought that's weird in mentioning that. Maybe he just likes history, but it does seem like why would he even mention it?
Yeah, but they're
obviously, in my opinion, the most important faction of all the one, Ethiopia. They're fighting against Italy. It's massively underrated,
dude.
God, and that the Ethiopian DLC.
You just hear. Okay, I gotta shut up.
What, clicking?
You just hear clicking. Yeah, you just hear clicking. My God, the Ethiopians are coming.
Anyone who says that's right, it's not. It's actually true. They do click. I know a guy who's Ethiopian. I asked him. He's like, yeah, they do.
Oh yeah, they do. Absolutely, they do.
Yeah. But what's even worse?
Their names, like they have to click in between syllables.
His name is like 15 syllables.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And they do a click through the syllables.
His ID,
it's awesome.
His ID has like 2 of his names on. I'm like, that is not a legal ID. He's like, it's legal. I'm like, if you get pulled over and they see your passport, you are screwed.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so give me your who you got to pick one. Pick one faction, then we're gonna move on here. We're gonna finish up the update.
Ethiopia. Stick with my choice.
No, he's so full of shit. Pick one that you actually believe.
If I'm right,
bro. If you're right, I will retire YouTube.
If I'm right,
Barbware, if you want me to be done, if you want me to close my freaking YouTube account, make Ethiopia. I will do it. Mark it right now. I will do it.
Barbwire, do it, please to God.
All of a sudden, because my last video would just be them clicking and me having the sound of silence while I'm sitting there. I will. That's what I'll do. I 100%. Absolutely, I'll do that. That's hilarious.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. I can retire. That's fine.
I think I collapsed along. I laughed so hard. Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So
great.
you're thinking the French then? Besides the
I think
Ethiopians.
you're probably right with the Italians because it also gives them options for new maps. But
Right.
yeah, you're probably right with the Italians. But unless this is another curveball, they could do Spain for Spanish Civil War. Like that's pre-World War II. But there was.
Nah, I don't think
Nah,
they're not going to go backwards. They're going to stick within. They're going to stick
World
within the
War
Western
One.
front.
Yeah,
They're going to
there's
stay
not
with.
really, like say, apart from Britain, Italy, and if they went Pacific, there's not really any. Because like I know they added Finland, but we talked about Hungary and all these other nations. Yeah, they had an impact, but they're not big enough. Like they're not going to do another Finland faction, I don't think. Plus, it's kind of boring.
Well, if they don't do Italy, then it'll be the British, and that'll be down the road. And the reason is because they've already, every time that they came up with a new faction, they always threw the skins of that faction in the army. Like for instance, them pushing the Sherman tank or pushing the Stuart, in a Lend-Lease, which they didn't call it Lend-Lease at the time, and then also having
it enjoy the war.
Yeah,
they called it.
in Churchill's and the oh my god, I know Valentine's.
Yeah.
So like that, it's literally just like it's foreshadowing what's to come. I guarantee that's why they did it. So, okay, so with that, let's finish out with just our last thoughts with the update 141.
Yeah. So update 141's main thing is they're fixing optimization and some bugs, isn't it? I believe.
Yep. And the recommended game settings, big. So
like also adding
there's been a lot of issues there. If you don't have a good enough rig, I know because you were talking with Shiba about this.
On the missions they get very choppy, and before people say my laptop's not powerful enough, it massively is because it's a gaming laptop. It's actually very over the requirements.
Yeah,
it's very, very good. It's MSI Qatar. It's actually very good. Surprisingly, got cheap and it was good. But I think that's just. I think sometimes the missions do like a lot of the old missions still have problems, but they are like the fact that they've released like 2 updates in the last 2 weeks. Like fair play, I can't complain.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that they're like immediately trying to fix these concerns.
Well, I think that's a proof how well it's sold, because if it hadn't sold well, I think they would just be like, screw it. But they know that they need to keep these new players in.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Absolutely. And so, and then finally, I guess with that, so they're optimizing the game. They're also making it so the settings are more comparable to the PC that you're using. Better settings and all that. And then finally, the little nugget that they said is that they're going to add several vehicles. And what was the other thing on here? And there is a winter sale coming up, so stay tuned for that. So I think they're going to drop the vehicles just prior to the winter sale, just to cap off saying, hey.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm going to be surprised what they are, because they've really covered quite a lot of vehicles, so I can't really think off the top of my head what they could be.
It's going to be something for okay. First off, this would be my assumption. It's going to be, it'll be the U.S., obviously. It has to be something U.S., and number 2, I think they're going to do more for the Soviets. They dropped a lot of good shit. They dropped a lot of good shit for the Germans. And they understand that they're going to be facing each other. If they there's still plenty of German vehicles they can throw in this game. But I think that the Soviets, especially with the Lend-Lease stuff, and I think that this drop could actually be telling for the next faction. If I'm being honest.
Yes, it could be, potentially,
and if they're going to do that, what faction would they do it for? Probably the Soviets.
Yeah, true.
I think it would be the Soviets. Imagine if they ended up bringing what if they brought in one more, not Valentine, Churchill. Like the next series of Churchill.
That'd be quite telling, wouldn't it?
That would be insanely telling. 1,000% it'd be telling. And I do believe that they're going to do something like that, because, there are plenty of Churchills. And
there's Churchill ARV, There's Churchill Crocodile. There's tons of Churchills they could add.
There's tons of Churchills, and they only gave us one. So I'm just
well,
saying.
To be fair, the Russians only got access, I think, to the couple of variants. They didn't get any of the Flamethrower ones or anything.
All they have to do is They didn't get They that was too late anyways. But I'm telling you right now, if you see a freaking Churchill get added on the next series of Churchill or whatever variant they want to use, mark my word, it's British are coming. That's my opinion on it.
British are coming.
But they got to do something. They got to do some more for the Soviets. Because you're done.
Well, I don't know. Content update 5, the Soviets did get a lot.
They did get a lot, but I'm just saying.
I think the Eastern Front will get forgotten a bit. I'm not trying to be mean to anyone, but remember, they've done a lot on it. The Western Front has blown out of proportion the Eastern Front in just terms of popularity. They've got to follow the money in popularity. People say, look, we need the game to succeed. If that means they have to go, look, we're going Western Front.
Yeah.
It's like Pacific. I think Pacific would be good, but the Pacific is never as popular as the Western Front either. It just isn't.
Yeah.
The US people like it, obviously, because it really, the Pacific was the US war. Although the Aussies were in it and stuff, but Britain, they basically did nothing in the Pacific. The rest of Europe basically didn't touch the Pacific. They've got to kind of follow the bulk of the important kind of areas and what was popular.
Yeah. And this is exactly why I think Italy will be next. Yeah. Because you said yourself, smaller faction. It's also going to be something that the U.S. fought. So if they mass-produced tanks for Germany. They had their own special tank. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Oh man, I could pull it up if I pulled War Thunder up right now. But
who was that? Who produced their own special tank?
Italy had a tank.
Oh,
they had a really good tank.
Is it the Cuccaro? That was crap. They had that the one that was a bit like the Stew.
Yeah, I
I just know they had something. I ended up looking into it because I thought when I was playing War Thunder, I saw it, and you can look at some of the history and stuff. And so I looked into it, and I'm like, holy shit! I didn't know they had their own tank. Didn't they fought in the desert? Didn't they?
Yeah, they fought in North Africa. Basically,
yeah, it was something they used.
Not to be harsh to the Italians, but Hitler basically said the Italians were so much of a hindrance, we'd have been better off just without them in the war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, every time they gave them something.
But you know, yeah, go ahead.
Every time they gave them something important, they ballsed it up so much where it would have been better if they just were like, "Oh, we have nothing to do that. We're going to lose. We know we're going to lose."
Nope.
But the Italians ballsed up so much, the Germans had to constantly try to backtrack to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because the Italian troops were crap, because they had some really good troops. It's because their industry was so poor, they couldn't make artillery and tanks to the amount that they needed. That was it. They were under-equipped.
And for the first portion of the war, though, they were making all the tanks for the Germans. So it's like...
But even then, though, when Mussolini got in and started, when the war started, he was like, "Oh, every infantry regiment's got to have this much artillery." No one even got that much artillery, not a single one. He just said, "Oh, it'll be done because we'll just do it like the Germans." It's like, no, you need to make it as well. You don't just find it in the field like, "Oh, the artillery is sprouted." Yes, the 120 millimeters look amazing this year.
Mm-hmm. Dude. Yeah, so Italy.
Yeah, the Italians sucked.
Yep. And they will be listen to this guy. This British is so salty about the world.
I'm not salty, I just like the taste.
I like my crackers.
Who you call cracker? That's our word.
All right, tea and crumpets or whatever the hell you guys do over there. Fish and chips. All right. Well,
what about the water?
Is there anything else you want to add? Otherwise, I think we're coming to the
I think that's we've done a good summary. I think anything that we've missed will be picked up in the comments by someone claiming that we didn't say, "Oh, it was 1942 on the 2nd of August. You forgot to mention this," and I'm sure they'll mention it.
Yeah. Well, hey.
But hey, that's part of the life.
As long as you go to bed with your eyes.
No, I'm going to the pub.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That too.
I'm going to get drunk. Oh yeah. Sir Jelly Bean is back in the wild.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Hopefully, you're not dropping. No. Okay. I gotta stop. I'm not gonna go down that road. All right. Listen. This has been fun, guys. Thanks for coming out. Don't forget to do the thing. Hit the like and all that crap. Let us know what you think about this. Give us your order, and for how you would put the factions in order or whatever. Man, I said that funny. But with that,
Thanks for coming out to the Pug and Beans podcast, and we will see you in the next one.